Tomorrow on Marilyn, you may know Carson Kressley from a lot of things, but did you know how much of a pro he is in the world of horses?
A lot of them take little mini naps during the day where they're actually sleeping standing up with their eyes closed. I do the same.
Then,
it's inexpensive, it's quick, it's healthy, it's soup's easy.
all of those sound good to us. Dig into a delicious burger from Bob Bloomer. Plus, spacing out on what to do with your outdoor space, John Culinary's got some great ideas to help. Marilyn is all new tomorrow.
All right, welcome back. My next guest wrote one of the biggest love songs on the planet and was inducted into the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame earlier this year. And after a long hiatus, he's back with new music, which is the best news ever. Please welcome multiple Juno and Grammy winner, Dan Hill. Dan Hill. Yay!
Great to see you again, Marilyn.
It's so good to see you. Congratulations on your induction.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I feel very humbled that I was inducted into this Hall of Fame.
I want to ask you this question. How does it feel to be join one of your music heroes, which is Bruce Cockburn?
Well, I learned an awful lot from Bruce Cockburn. First time I saw him was in grade 11 when he performed at my high school. So, a lot of how I play guitar and write songs came from listening and pretty much inhaling Bruce Cockburn's songs.
Yeah, no kidding. That's so cool. That is so great. Wasn't it somebody in your family? I think you said in your memoir, I Am My Father's Son. You tell the story of when you were 15 years old and your dad told you that you may never be on the level of Bruce Cockburn. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you were, right next to him. That's so great.
Thank you. Well, I was writing songs like a maniac. By the time I was 12, when you're 11 or 12, you can't really write songs about girls because that's sort of sucky. So I was writing love songs about our cat, Smokey. So my dad thought I had serious emotional problems. And given that, I'm a biracial human being, understandably, parents, Black parents want their children to super achieve PhDs and everything in order to transcend systemic racism. So when I made it clear to my dad that I was not going to finish high school, that I was going to be the next Gordon Lightfoot, he was absolutely shocked and very upset. So he was always trying to convince me to stay in school, to forget about this music stuff, because as he would say, be aware of your limitations. You're never going to be a Bruce Cockburn.
Wow, that's a story. Well, I have to tell you that you and I probably started off at the same time, because I remember when I was working at a very small radio station, Dan, in Moscow, Idaho, which is in northern Idaho. Sometimes When We Touch came out in 1977. I remember playing it as the first time anyone heard it, and it was fantastic. And I want to talk to you about the story and how it happened, because it's such a famous and lovely song. And tell us about that song and how it affected you.
Well, I was 19 when I wrote the song. I was already getting people recording my songs at 19, but it usually takes about 2 years from when someone records your song to actually making money. So I was, out of high school, writing, playing wherever I could, music, making $1.89, working for the civil service. And I fell in love with an older woman, 22, and but she made it very clear that she wanted to go out with other men as well as me, which broke my heart. So I wrote this song hoping that this would make her really just want to go out with me. And she would always say, "Do you love me? Do you love me?" And it was a trick question, because if I said yes, she'd say, "Dan, you're too needy." If I said no, "You're too cold." So that's why I started with, "You ask me if I love you," and I choke on my reply. I write the song, think for sure now she's, so she inspired the song. I was trying to get her to just want to see me.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. And that just puts you into the spotlight. Hey, do you mind if we go back in time to the 70s when you walked through 1331 Yonge Street on Yonge Street and at Chum Radio? You were interviewed by the late great Larry Wilson, and he asked you about touring. Here's a clip from that interview.
I played in Sweden the other day, and a punk rock crowd invaded into the audience, and that was very hostile.
What went down?
Well, they just I couldn't, thank goodness, understand what they were saying, since I can't really understand Swedish, but they definitely didn't want to have anything to do with what I was singing about. And they were very hostile, and, just very physical in their disagreement, so.
And loud?
They were pretty loud, yeah. But it was kind of like you're sitting there, and I opened up to England Dan John Furcoli once, and they were throwing firecrackers at me on stage, and that got me so angry that I drove all the way home from Utica, Toronto, because I never like to stay in the same city if it's a poor show, and wrote a song in the car on the way back, But you kind of look at those things with detached amusement, Well, actually, it turned out to be Till the Day I Die, which did make the album, but...
Indeed it did.
I find that sometimes... when something happens that's negative to me, the fighter in me strikes out and writes, because writing to me still represents my survival.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that? Remember those days?
Well,
I don't know if you remember that interview.
Yes, I do. I cared very, very deeply for Larry Wilson, a very, very soulful man who understood music on such a deep level that, I will always remember him.
And those about you talking about, it's interesting, you're talking about chasing after a record. You always were out there supporting that record, supporting and always on tour. And interesting for me to hear that here you are in, Utica or New York, and that you didn't like how things went and you wrote, but you made the most of your time writing another song while driving back.
Yes, I was and am a compulsive writer. Gordon Lightfoot, who I love and I've been lucky to have been friends with since '75, he actually said songwriting can be an addiction. Well, it is an addiction. I've been a compulsive songwriter and prose writer since I was maybe 10.
Wow, that's amazing. Let's talk about your new album, On the Other Side of Here. What inspired you to do this album after all these years?
Well, for some reason, I was writing more than I'd ever written, throughout 2020, playing piano, 3 to 4 hours a day, writing songs. I don't know what happened. It was almost like a creative renaissance. So then it occurred to me that I should make an album because I knew that these were some of the best songs I'd ever written. I was singing as well as I'd ever sung. So then I went in and made this album, and it was by far the most fun I've ever had making a record.
And you're going to be performing for us very shortly a song called What About Black Lives? Tell me about that.
Well, in the wake of George Floyd's shocking, traumatic murder, I was asked to make a statement about the systemic racism that has been visited upon Black people since 1601. And I didn't really want to make a public statement or write an essay about it. I was afraid I was going to come off as kind of professorial and, lecturing. So it just hit me that I had to go to my greatest gift, which is writing songs. And so then I did write What About Black Lives quite quickly. And I've never really had a lot of success I've only had hits with love songs. So I didn't know if anybody would get this song, but to my surprise people really, really seem to respond to it. So I'm really, really happy that I wrote the song, that I recorded it.
Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. I thank you for spending the time with us, and congratulations again. Thank you.
So wonderful to see you again, Marilyn. Thank you for your time.
Oh, absolutely. Dan Hill, we adore you. I know I just feel like I have been on this trajectory with you, so it's really a pleasure. Here's Dan Hill with What About Black Lives?
What about black lives? What about black lives? What about black lives? Tired of being brutalized, the victim of white lies. What about black lives? Single knee to the neck, body slammed to the ground. Couldn't take a single breath. White policeman kneeling down. I can't breathe, was his final sound. How many George Floyds have before we end this genocide. I'm asking, what about black lives? What about black lives? What about black lives? Tired of being demonized, the victim of white lies. What about black lives? A nation up in flames. President calls the National Guard. Nothing will ever be the same, long as policemen still bear arms. We were mass, marching on into the dark. Change is coming, there's no doubt. It's time we finally figured out. What about black lives? What about black lives? What about black lives? We're tired of being compromised, victim of white lies. What about black lives?